So this is what our parliament building currently looks like.
Wow.
Or any parliament building for that matter. Functionally is this.
Absolutely.
Or let's say there is a bigger living room in a house.
Hello all. Today is a very, very special day because today we're going to do something very, very unique. Today we are going to talk about the art of folding. You guessed it right. We're going to talk about origami. Origami originated in Japan and is now a worldwide craze. And to talk about origami, we have with us Santrupti Das, who's a budding architect from SPA New Delhi, who's just completed her education of BArch. And she's so much into origami. She's an enthusiast of origami that she's going to talk to us about origami today. And there's a lot of interesting stuff that is going to come up today in this video, especially because origami is now going to relate to your everyday life. Origami is going to relate to architecture. Origami is going to make sense for architecture students. At the end of this video, I promise all architecture students and architects are going to start learning origami and use it in their practice. So Santrupti, how are you today?
Thank you so much. I am really good.
Great, great, great. So, tell us about origami. What is this origami thing all about?
Origami is all about so any single fold that you make on a paper, and what it does, it changes the form, the shape, size of paper. So like this single fold has started to make this look like a book. And generally we lose touch of such a craft because it's considered a craft. Once maybe we are out of primary school, we lose touch of this. Because what use is this crane of apart from just looking nice?
Can you show us the crane once more, please?
Yes.
Yeah, this is the crane. Such a beautiful crane. And we have this special arrangement of an overhead camera. So whatever Santrupti is going to do, we're going to see from the front, that is her face, and also from the top, because she's going to show us live.
So I said that there is a sheet of paper that we have.
Yes.
And I'm able to manipulate now when I did this, I have already manipulated the aspect ratio of the sheet.
Yes.
And when I did this, now I make it stand here.
Yes.
And if you can see, it's basically, if I make it stand like that.
Yes.
Now it's able to stand.
Yes.
Whereas if it was a straight sheet of paper, it would have been practically impossible for you to make it stand in that way. Absolutely. Along this axis. But now, because of these two folds, just two folds, it's now standing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, paper, origami, folds have got something to do beyond just being, something you can make beautiful objects out of.
Yes. Yes.
There is utility to it, and because of its very basic property being able to stand this way, yes, I can then start using it in architecture because structure is being used here.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that is how I look at origami in that way.
That's nice. That's nice. So, first of all, can origami be used every day by students, like school students, students who want to, spend time in the school, spend time at home as a hobby, or even, like we're all, freaky about using hobbies for education. Everybody wants to use, tools for education. So can origami be used as some kind of a tool for education?
Yes, of course. I think origami takes the very basics of maths, geometry into account, and that is how we divide. For example, before I start, I would just like to confirm that whether this arrow looks to the top, yes, for all the viewers, and whether this looks to the right.
Yes, and it looks to the right.
We'll use this as a reference so that we know what is happening on our paper. I folded this into half.
Yes.
Now what has happened is the length, which was at the moment, let's call it L.
Okay.
This length has become L by 2, and
wow,
this L by 2. very basic division. And
Yes.
every day while making columns on our notebooks, when you have to do some comparison, and we used to do this. So we have found that. The next point could be, if this is L by 2, this distance is L by 2, and I am able to take this fold here and divide that L by 2 into half. So what do I get now is by 4 and another L by 4. If I use another color and just mark this out, this line here, which is quite clear also, is the line that shows L by 4, which
Yes.
also means that this distance now here L minus L by 4, which is 3L by 4.
Great. Great.
And
All
now,
fractions so nicely done.
yes, all the divisions. Now what you're doing is, now you know that if I then consider this L by 4 distance as my L, let's say L by 4 becomes X, and then I can do a X by 2, which is equal to L by 8, and then L by 16. So all the powers of 2, you can start doing that. And practically on this size of paper, probably you could reach to something like L by 64.
Right.
Which I have possibly done. Now, about divisions, and this is about equal divisions of the power 2, which is even number of divisions always. But of course, if you cut the strip off from this paper, now what you have left is a paper that is divided on its own into three equal parts here. Now, let us look at this point. What is this point? This is L by 2. This
Yes.
divides the paper. So if I this corner here and you fold it here and fold it here, what do I get? And I fold it here, and while it is still folded, I draw a horizontal line here.
Could you use some other color?
Yes, sure. So if I draw a horizontal line here, that it touches the lower sheet at, what I have now gotten is a square of side L by 2. This square is of size L by 2, and it also has a diagonal. From our theory of maths, we know that the diagonal divides the square which has the angles as 90 degree, it divides it into 45-degree angles. 90 by 2. Also,
Absolutely.
this 90-degree itself comes from the fact that this was a full sheet of paper, which means this was a 180-degree. So this first fold itself created that 90-degree. So this fold created a 45. Now if we use this edge, the top edge, with this line that we marked, we'll be able to create a 22.5. And we can go on and on, decreasing the angles and creating all these various outcomes. So I'll not write that here, but I'll just mark the line so that you get an idea. Right?
Yes.
Now, let me just prepare another, because this now is full of a lot of calculations. So I'll just prepare, I'll take only a few parts of this sheet onto this. So I'll keep my L by 2. I'll just, because this is cluttered with information now, we have learned dividing the paper into parts, linear halves, and we have learned about dividing the paper into a square of a certain dimension. So if you needed a square that was 3L by 4, you would have taken this here and done that, which is not possible because of the aspect ratio of the paper.
Yes.
But then we found a 45-degree line and also a
22.5 degree line.
22.5 degree line. So let's copy a few lines from here onto this. The first one is the L by 2 line. And the second one is the L by 4. And this is an easy way to learn maths, make it a little more friendly to students. We generally hear of people not liking maths, so probably this could be a way to help them like maths. So let me just take this line here, which was my L by 2 division, which is L by 4. All right.
Sure.
And so let me just mark a few critical things here, which is, can you tell what distance this would be? This would be L by 4. This would be L by 2. Now, I'll take this corner. Let me keep this aside. I'll take this corner now. We have repeated only the parts that we need now. I'll take this corner here, where when I did this, I was able to create a square with 45 degree angle. But when I don't drop this point onto this red line itself and take it ahead to the green line, keeping the pivot here as the same. So what I achieve here, and if I make this line here, then maybe black. So can you tell me what we have achieved? What line is this?
This line, what can this line be? Is this
Okay,
a 45 degree line again?
No, we had already drawn the 45 degree line here.
Yes.
So let's look at this again. Let's rewrite the letters, the numbers that we had written.
Yes.
This on the back side also, because the length remains the same,
Yes.
irrespective of the side.
L by
It's
2.
called L by 2.
Yes.
Okay, let's try to draw this triangle out now here as a small, which are the same proportions. This is L by 4. This is L by 2. And if we find out any of the angles here, we will be able to find out the rest of the angles.
Yes.
Because there's a rule that everything together will become 180 degrees.
Sum of all the angles in a triangle become 180 degrees.
That is one thing. And the other thing is that sum of all the angles in a line that has been divided with will be 180 degrees.
Oh.
So, looking at this triangle, draw an imaginary line here just to mark the edge of the triangle onto the lower paper. So what I have here is I have tried to copy this small triangle onto this just to see this. And if we are able to mark out what this angle is, then we know that if, let's say, this is called theta, then this angle here is called 90 minus theta.
Yes.
Okay, and this entire angle, this angle here on this paper is being overlapped here.
Yes.
So, which means that whatever is this angle, if this was alpha, this angle was alpha, then the angle between these two black lines is also alpha, 90 plus theta.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And we already know from this side that this angle is alpha. So the angle on the other side of that same paper will also be alpha. And the other way to look at it is also that this very calculation, basically what you're saying is alpha is equal to this value, 90 degree minus this angle. So 90 minus alpha minus 90 plus theta. What you essentially is alpha is equal to 90 minus alpha plus Basically, you keep calculating it plus 90 plus theta, and you would eventually reach at the fact that this theta here is equal to alpha here. You would be able to prove that all the angles here, basically what you have done, and if you don't mathematically do it, we can also prove it here logically. So I just redid those two lines, and we had this angle like that, which we were calling alpha. And from a basic logic, if I try to fold and overlap and see if this angle is the same as that angle, if I just fold this line here along that same line that we created right now, that line that exists. So one way to prove it is that this first fold was already existing in my previous case. This fold, we had already drawn this fold.
Yes.
And we knew that we are calling this as alpha.
Alpha.
So, and we knew that this angle is also alpha.
Yes.
Right? And
Yes.
hence this angle is 180 minus 2 alpha.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
And we have also proved it because of the principle of overlapping paper, that this is also equal to alpha actually. Small triangle that we had drawn here.
Yes.
This triangle.
Yeah.
If I calculate this angle, which is alpha or theta, let's call it alpha now.
Yes.
If I take sine of alpha.
Yes.
Sine alpha, which is equal to this base upon hypotenuse. So L by 4 divided by L by 2. What I get here is half. And sine alpha is half, means alpha is 60 degree. So by trigonometry or by just simple calculation, we have reached a fact that we have been able to establish a 60 degree angle here. Which then means if this is 60 and I make a angle here, bisect that angle, I am able to reach 30
degree
plus 30. And then I divide this. Now I'm at 15 degrees. And if this angle is 15 degrees, I can very surely say that this whole angle is basically 180 minus 15 degrees. 180 minus 15 degrees. You can keep working on and get all the angles that are possible in the trigonometric ratio. Or you can also work out the ratios. Basically, the ratio is that if you can make x and y in a certain proportion, that sine inverse of x by y is equal to theta, whatever angle you require. Then if you know what angle you require here, then you can of course make your divisions in that way so that x and y correspond to that angle.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
One way.
Absolutely.
Now,
absolutely.
Let us look at a square and let us look at how to create more geometries out of it. So I'll just quickly cut a square out of it. What I did was, I know this length. I want to create another line here which is the same length. So I'll just divide it like that. And I have reached a square. I'll just quickly cut this through roughly to explain what's happening.
All the viewers, while you're cutting, make sure you have a hard surface below the paper so that you don't spoil your table.
I have a square. In this specific one, I won't do the calculations because it's a little tricky here for the purview of this. So if I do this and I do this, basically tries to create a square. I'm just showing you the outcome in this case. I have been started to fold things along certain lines, certain grid lines that I'm making. And I do this. All those things, just angle divisions. These are all calculations of angle divisions. And I make this fold here. What do you think will evolve out of this? What can the square become? So I'll just use a scissor here and cut this out. And by pure mathematics, what I get here is, what do you think it is?
A
What shape
trapezium?
do you think? No, it's a regular shape and it's a pentagon.
Oh,
You've reached a pentagon out of
wow.
your square, and if I just fold it back again, and we all know that a circle is just an abstraction of a, basically if I make these a little more curve, this would have become a circle. A
Absolutely,
circle can of
absolutely.
course be inscribed in this. So if I then just fold everything back, so if I just fold back in the way they were, like this, and try and cut an arc here. So the circle's logic is that the radius is the same on all sides. Wherever you draw the radius, it will be the same. So if this is the shortest side, and I mark this out like that, and I draw an arc to define it, and if I cut this paper, now you would say that cutting doesn't come in origami, but yeah, you're trying to find a shape. And only with those folds also you would have reached that shape, but the square would have remained. So it would
Yes,
have been a pentagon within a square. So if you
yes.
want to extract that pentagon, you would have to remove that edges of the square. Yes, what we have done is that we have started getting a circle. We've created an arc there, and
Yes, it's a beautiful circle out of a normal square sheet of paper. Done accurately.
yes, done more accurately, you would reach a proper circle also. I'll
Great.
just quickly show you what you can make out of a pentagon. A flower that's formed out of pentagons. If I just fold this a bit here, like that. Can you start seeing the shape of the flower?
Yes, it's a beautiful flower with a pentagon
So,
in the middle. It's like that
so like a cherry blossom.
cherry blossom. Cherry blossom. Absolutely.
So you can keep designing. And once you know that this is the kind of a floral shape that is coming out of from a pentagon, so if you have, let's say, a building elevation, which has got the diagrammed structure in the shape of, there are pentagons that are being formed here, various pentagons that join together to form that shape. You can start thinking that maybe each of these can be treated as a flower,
Yes.
cherry blossoms as a facade design, probably. So because
Absolutely.
that is the origin of a cherry blossom
Yeah.
or any other flower which is a five-sided flower. So that is what maths does to origami or helps origami in. One last thing that maths could help you in, we've learned about angles and about um, angular divisions and cutting a paper into a specific size and shape. When we talked about angles, when we were talking about the 60-degree angle, if you make a shape which is 60-degree on all sides, you would reach a hexagon. So I have
Absolutely.
divided my paper into 4 parts, and when this tries to stand, what we get is a square in profile. If I make more divisions on it, which is 8 divisions, I can quickly do this just to get an idea. So these are very quick design methods to reach a point. Whether, it's one thing to just imaginatively think whether your building will look better in a square or in an octagon. And it's another thing to just quickly build it and see what looks better. It's a quicker way to understand. So now using that same paper, I started making an octagon here. This is an octagon, 8-sided.
Yes.
And if I want to reduce the number of sides while working, I'll just take it, overlap 2 pages. Yes, so this was an octagon. From a
Hmm.
square, we have come to octagon. I overlap 2 sides. I reduce 2 sides. Now it's a hexagon. I reduce the
Hexagon.
3rd side. Now it's a pentagon.
Pentagon.
So with just one, if you take this as the building height of your model, just with one sheet of paper, you have continuously started seeing what works in your context. So maybe you have a huge context model and you're just placing the small thing there and just checking whether a pentagon works. Or you think, no, I think there should be two loops like this. There should be, two cubicles. So now we have a paper which has two cubicles. You want a paper which has a triangular space and a pentagonal space here. So now we have a triangle and a pentagon. Is it visible? The
Absolutely.
triangle
Beautiful play
and
of
the pentagon.
paper. With the same sheet of
So
paper, you could try so
yes,
many 3D variations of the same space.
right. So then that is what we talk about in schematic design, division of spaces, whether you want a five-sided room or a, proportions also. This this would mean two rooms which are equal in size and equal in importance, maybe.
Yes.
Something like I was just talking to someone about hospital design. Clinic is supposed to have units that stick together with like each other, just the consultation rooms, versus something like this. For example, this could be the proportion that you require for a private ward with its toilet, the proportion of spaces, versus something like, let's say you need the first space as a smaller space and the next space as a larger space. Again, because of its flexibility, this square could tomorrow become a pentagon again, any shape. That is just flexibility and to understand. Whatever you do with diagrams, you are doing the same thing in 3D. So with that, you're also getting the sizes and all. So when we were talking about this size, let's say we have one important area which is a bigger space and the one small, less important area which is a smaller space. And I'll just use this and reduce the height of the smaller space. Say that I don't need so much. Okay, I'll just cut it. So now what I have is a small space, which is maybe a single height space, and a bigger space, which now, if you see it in 3D, is a double or a triple height space, and the smaller space maybe is the entrance to a bigger building. So you're talking about all those proportions, but in 3D. That is what origami can do to you. And then, conceptually speaking, let's say you have a bringing together two different types of things. Let's say, your concept is to bring the political mindset and the democratic, or sorry, the political mindset and people, economics, or the general public. So you want to bring, let's say it's a legislative assembly, and you're trying to bring the upper house, which is your representatives, and people themselves, the general public together. So and you treat two different models, this is people and this is public, the sorry, people and representatives, and you say that my building should be a resemblance of their coexistence, and you take two pieces of paper and bring them together like that and start carving out a model which does that. Or you want to say that in my case there should be a central hall, which is this, and there should be people who could be able to see it from all around. So this is what our parliament building currently looks like,
Wow.
or any parliament building for that matter. Functionally, is this, or
Absolutely.
or let's say there is a bigger living room in a house, and then there is a small bedroom that gets attached to one end here, and then there are multiple different shapes and sizes of bedrooms that keep getting attached one after the other, but their property is different from the central space, because the central space is going to get connected to a living to an entrance or something like that. So continuously you can keep playing with all these forms, and of course this kind of a shape gives you the possibility to have a roofing structure, a dome like structure. If you were able to understand this,
Yeah.
this plays like a dome. Or imagine you were making a science center and you wanted one of the buildings to look like a globe. So you just pull things together. And this kind of a form, to understand it, it is easiest to actually do it in 3D and not in a 3D software. That is one way to do it, but I always believe that using your hands, staying rooted to the means is very important. So that is
Absolutely.
how you can do that. And of course, because of this form, now if I become an architect that wants to resonate with my own self, and I want to end up making a building which has S in it, just to say that Sansrukti made it. So
Yeah,
maybe this is S there,
absolutely.
or maybe this is also airport. This is that retractable bridge that connects the flight to the airport building itself. And when it's not required, it goes and sticks together back at the airport, which is this is the airport end. And then it comes, and today the flight stands, let's say now that this is our flight. This little piece of paper here is our flight. This can still turn with this wall end being the same, and this comes here and this still turns. It continuously is able to mold. Now, these are some things to understand at a conceptual level in origami. But the question that you were also asking, that what can architects get from origami? Let's look at the detailing stage. Now, within detailing, I would like to show you two things. One of them would be, let's look at this font here. Okay, and this looks like this in section. So if I am trying to understand how does a pathway and the drainage and the road work, like what levels the road needs to be a little lower than the pathway, and the pathway needs to be here, the drain needs to be there. So you can start detailing things out because you're creating these forms and understanding them in that way. Not to say that these forms only mean the road and the drainage, they also mean your wall. You can make them stand and see ki, okay, this is the height of my wall. And because this is very flexible, if we look at this could be a complex form which could be achieved, visualized only because of origami. And
Absolutely.
then if we look at this form, this is another way. Maybe this is the facade, okay, and we are trying to look at what are the structural members. Actually, all these units take a lot of load. They can take, because of its structure, it is able to take a lot of load, and the model doesn't collapse. And this is what your structures faculty will talk about as folded plate structures, which
Yes,
take a lot of load. And exactly, folded plate structure is exactly origami. Even
absolutely.
wall structures, it's also using the concept that paper is stronger in that direction, in that what we call as the beam depth is the
Yeah,
thickness of the slab, which is using it to give that strength to the paper or to the structure. So we were talking about this model, and we were talking about, if this is my facade, okay, we have designed using origami and we have made this facade. What about fenestrations? What are the possible places where I can cut the model and the model will still stay intact? If you remember anything from your structures class, you would remember that a folded plate structure is a form active structure. It's a little different from a shell structure in the way that if you make a hole in the shell, it will collapse at any point. But a folded plate structure, since its major structural members are just those folds that you have, I'll just cut it neatly. Um, yeah. In whatever pattern, you can also cut a jali pattern or anything. We already know that our normal columns are all load framed structures, which means only the structure is taking the load, which means regardless of any windows, any non-structural members being present in any of these, they won't destroy the shape or the form. Nothing happens to the form. It can still work in the same way. So
this can
even if
work.
this
This can
whole,
work for creating so much economy in the structure. We can replace that part with the lighter materials, cheaper
yes,
materials,
pillar slab,
pillar slabs, and we
exactly.
can replace it with glass depending upon the use case. And the overall structure would be so resilient and so strong all the time.
And when you do this fenestration detail, when you make holes to have entrances, to have windows, to even have just balcony like spaces, you are also bringing out only the structural member and retaining that, like you mentioned, optimizing the structure also at the
Yeah.
same time. So that is what it happens in the um, design detailing stage. Now talking of elevation, so you can always bring this whole thing back. And basically, if I was standing in front of a window and this is in front of me, I don't want the window right now. I want it to be shaded. So I open this whole thing, pull this down. This is completely shaded. And then I pull it back up. Now it's not shaded. So this kind of retractable process is possible with origami. And we
Absolutely.
can really use it for our elevations as shading devices and stuff like that.
Spoken a lot about proportions, limits, angles, geometry, ratios, basically all of the maths that was for students and also for students of architecture. Then you spoke about basic model making, how we can use manipulation in the same paper and decide as to what kind of a space we want. So, what is this artistic expression? You spoke about how a flower can be made with the uh, proportions of a paper. So apart from that, you have just covered the architect's part of it. You've talked about the concept development. You've talked about the form, detailing, and structure. You're talking about fenestration, how that retractable design can be made. How can it be used in interior design? If you could tell us.
Do you remember this being our uh, solution for transport design, where we had the path and the road was here and the drain was going there?
Yes,
Now imagine this was stuck on the of a building. Now your ducts still go here because there's a lower level. Your services, there is a cavity here to have your services. And what you see from below is an interesting form, a false ceiling
absolutely.
services within the form itself. Because what you see from below is this kind of a shape.
Yes,
And what it is hiding is here. And if I have a light here, let me just put a flashlight on top here. And now what you get below is, if I just reverse it now,
okay,
just
one
show
second.
you, it's an
Yes,
interesting.
absolutely.
And of course, this could be an interior design, which could be, let's say, a majestic cladding to a column. Let's say in the living room, you have one column which is serving a purpose at the upper floor, but here you don't need it. So you create, let's say, this kind of a covering.
So I'm really really moved and impressed with what you just shown us today. I would like to recapitulate. So I remember those difficult geometry lessons. So you told us about how a simple A4 size paper can be actually used for teaching yourself and teaching your class if you're a teacher. Good geometry, how angles can be taught, and the way those 60-degree angles were joined together to create that 180. It's amazing. I mean, I never thought that like a paper could be used to do that. The only good thing, the only way I have ever used origami for utility is when you have to make that two columns on the notebook, and you used to just fold your notebook and then you'll have two columns. That's the only thing I did. But now I could even do angles on an A4 size paper. Apart from that angle, trigonometry. I mean, just imagine the potential. If trigonometry is taught through origami, it's going to be a revolution. I remember those difficult books called Loni and all those things that had to be done for trigonometry. But just imagine doing trigonometry. At least for the beginners to start with. Doing trigonometry
To
with paper
visualize.
to visualize what's going on, and then after that visualization, when this thing enters your brain, then you can actually do with equations and with on paper. Then you spoke about how detailing can be done. Architects, for architects, it's a very 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 nice tool. Architects can do basic detailing. Architects can do different plans. So immediately, without all those complicated sunboards and glues and scales and cuttings, you can simply take a piece of paper, start folding it, and get your immediate shapes and forms right in front of you. Your visualization is going to improve multi-fold. And the way you made that flower has immense potential to be used, by folding of steel, by folding of lot other materials which can be folded and made into a beautiful facade design. Apart from the good facade design, when you spoke about the structure part, I'm enthralled to see how good structure, which is so unique, good structure which is so good to look at, and apart from being good to look at, it is so functional. it has so much utility that it can bear so much weight. Actually, there are so many buildings around the world which use origami. And the way you cut out that small portion, that means that even after making it hollow from that small uh, portion, the basic strength of the structure will remain. And that thing can be created to use such beautiful dome like structures, such beautiful free form structures. And the way you combined those two forms when you're making that parliament building, one yellow, one white, to show how a small retractable folded piece of paper can be tweaked to make so many beautiful arrangements. And the limit is endless about the potential of using origami as architects. So all the architects, architecture students, and other students listening to this video, you'll have to be really, really clear that origami is something that you should really, really take on. Now, Santupti, I want to ask you, what does it require for somebody to take on origami? How should one start?
Starting with a piece of paper, I think it requires a piece of paper, any sheet, even from your notebook. I have folded even chocolate wrappers, so you can just keep
It's
on
the
doing.
basis of parametric design in your head.
Right.
Parametric design without software can start with parametric design with origami. So, there
Right.
is a lot of scope of parametric design using origami, because here you can try multiple iterations, and the only thing that you use is paper. Paper is all around us. So, origami is definitely a must for architects, must for architecture students. And I can suggest that it should be put as a basic curriculum in schools. So I mean, Santrupti, would you agree with that?
Yes, definitely. It should be in the primary school as well as higher education.
Absolutely, absolutely. We covered a lot today, and I'm so happy that we could be of use to all the architecture students who are listening to this. We could be used to all the architects, of use to all the architects who saw such great work that could be done with paper. And the combination of forms, the detailing, the structure, creating of that beautiful flower which can be used into a facade design, and doing so many angular calculations, geometrical calculations, which can actually be, because at the end, when you're making a structure, at that time, to visualize it as vis-a-vis, to do it on paper, just in your mind with just the sums and the equations, the visual part is definitely very appealing. The visual part is definitely very intuitive. The visual part is definitely very tweakable. You have more freedom of versatility. You have more freedom of changing it. You have more freedom of reiterating it multiple times. So origami is a must for architects, and I really want to thank Santrupti for taking time out today and teaching us, with this all beautiful setup that she made, where she actually, showed us how folding can be done. So I'm sure everybody enjoyed it. So I really, really want to thank you. And at the last, I want to leave it for Santrupti to give a message to everybody.
A message: origami is a universal language. So, regardless of what you understand or what you don't understand, if you start accepting origami as a tool that you can use in your own profession, and I don't mean just architecture, I'm sure a few of your viewers would also be non-architects. So if they start thinking in that way, they might get to use it in their own profession. A baker might want to make their molds out of origami. So I think it's a universal language, as I say.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for telling us about origami and teaching us origami and opening up a new world of origami for us.
Thank you so much for having me here.
While me do my two-step.